doesn't get any more authentic than this. Welcome to the Voiceover Gurus podcast.
Welcome back to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. I'm your hostess, Linda Bruno. Very, very happy to finally meet Miss Jodi Krangle. Hello.
Hi.
I've seen you like out and about. I've seen you like you've been interviewed on a lot of podcasts and gone on a lot of like various, I don't know, your name is around. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
In a good way. In a good way. In a good way.
I'll take that. Sure.
So it's just kind of cool to be able to finally meet you, and thanks for coming on my little show here.
Well, thanks. I love your show. I've seen several of the episodes and I really enjoyed them.
Thank you. We get a little crazy, right? Yeah. Little
That's
silly
okay.
and crazy.
That's the point. That's fun.
That's the point. I know. I feel like there are so many great podcasts out there with wonderful information. Sometimes it's nice just to keep it real, and we talk about the BS and the problems and the hardships that so many of us have to go through.
Sure.
But what are you drinking? What are you drinking today?
I'm drinking coffee with a little bit of pumpkin spice, just a little bit.
Oh, very nice.
There's always time for pumpkin spice. I don't care whether it's Christmas or not. Doesn't matter to me. Yeah.
You love your pumpkin spice and your cup matches.
Yeah.
It looks great.
It's an audio branding cup. Yeah.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
This is
I'm taking it
19
easy.
ounces. I am serious about my coffee.
Oh my gosh, that's a big cup. That's
Yes,
great.
It is. Yes,
but now, does it go cold? Do you like it cold?
It does get cold, but you know what? I don't care. I'll drink it anyway.
Yeah, I gotta heat that bad boy up. I'm drinking unsweetened green tea because it's too early in the day to have tequila.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be responsible.
Okay.
But yeah, so audio branding. So interesting because first you're gonna have to explain everything to me because I don't know anything about what you're talking about. So tell me. What is that?
I'm going to give you the definition that the International Sound Awards define it as, because they're kind of the people who got this thing started. I mean, they're one of the many people. There are a few people, but they started the International Sound Awards, I think, in 2009.
Okay.
So they define it as a brand sound that represents the identity and values of a brand in a distinctive manner. And that's the audio logo, branded functional sounds, brand music, or the brand voice. And that's all a part of audio branding. So it's a large umbrella under which there's a bunch of sound assets that are owned by a entity.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. So now you were a singer. You started off as a singer?
Yeah.
Before you became a voice actor?
Oh, yeah. By a long shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were a singer. I was reading, and you sang blues, jazz. What's this?
Yeah, mostly blues and jazz. And I mean, I was doing some pop when I was a kid, but you know, we all do those
really
things
cool.
when we're kids.
Yeah, that's cool. So like, did you perform in clubs and stuff?
Oh, no. I was never really a gigging musician. I'm more of a recording artist kind of deal. I have one gig that I do on a regular basis in Atlanta with a 9-piece band called Play It with Moxie. And that started in, I want to say 2005, something like that. Huh. So before I was in voiceover. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. We just have a lot of fun. But it's like one performance that I do once a year, and that's it. Yeah,
you're like Barbara Streisand. She does like once, one, and
oh, I wish. Yeah, no, not quite like that. But yeah, for me, the point was never to be a gigging musician. The point was to perform in front of people that I want to perform in front of. And the group of people that I perform in front of are geeky fan people like me. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a small subsection of music called FILK, F-I-L-K, which is the music of science fiction fantasy conventions. So
oh my gosh.
I know, it's like super niche.
Wow.
And a lot of the stuff that we perform as Play It with Moxie is part of that music genre. So things that have to do with science fiction and fantasy or media or television, that kind of stuff. Books, that are related to that. But a lot of the stuff that we perform is like squirrel nut zippers and, Adele, like we've done some, yeah, like it runs the gamut. There's a whole bunch of different stuff that we do, but it's a lot of fun. I have
So
always enjoyed
does
it.
FILK stand for something? It's an acronym?
No, actually, I think it was a typo that they did on a stencil in the 70s. It was supposed to be folk. At a science fiction convention. So it was at like a science fiction fantasy convention, and they were doing
hilarious.
stencils to tell people what was happening in certain rooms. And there's always been this tradition of music at these conventions where people would gather in a room, sit around in a circle, and kind of do the campfire thing, right? So they'd all
Interesting.
play music with each other, at each other, people would contribute with whatever instrument they had available, etc. And people were writing songs about the things they were interested in the science fiction fantasy community, right?
That's fascinating.
It's long and storied, and I got involved in '94, so I've been involved for a long time.
It's like you don't realize these pockets of creativity that are out there because you don't hear about it. But wow,
There's a lot.
But there's a passion there.
I am
Obviously
a geeky
there's a huge
fangirl
passion.
from way back. Yes.
So now you were singing before you decided to pursue voiceover?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
so what
raised
made
with
you
that.
want to do? What made you want to do VO?
I originally, and I know that you've talked with others who have done this too. Originally, I volunteered my time at the CNIB, which was the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. And I didn't know what voiceover was until I volunteered there. So 95, 96, I was reading magazine articles onto reel-to-reel tape.
In the old
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. So that was my introduction to voiceover, and I loved the tech as much as I loved the voicing. I thought it was all a lot of fun. And just that was kind of where the bug bit, but I didn't really end up doing anything voiceover related until many years later because I was doing SEO and internet marketing for many years. So because of the music, I had a songwriting website online called The Muse's Muse, and I did that from 95 until about 2016. And
wow.
yeah, it was this really large resource. It was kind of my baby on the internet when the internet was young. And I promoted that on a dime. I had no money to promote it. So I learned how to do it on my own. I learned about how to make the internet work for me, and then ended up employing those tactics in order to help clients. So that's how I became a self-employed person. That was my first foray into being self-employed. And in 2007, I got really bored. And yeah, I'm one of those people where things tend to happen when I get bored. So I kind of thought, well, now's the time. I've been thinking about it. It's in the back of my head. I always wanted to do it. Why not just do it? And one day I put a website together. I certainly knew about websites and just switched my focus. So one day I was in SEO and internet marketing, and the next day I was in voiceover, and I just went and learned as much as I possibly could. And at the time that meant message boards.
Oh God, remember message boards? Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember
AOL.
Julie Williams? Her message
Yes.
board? Yeah. So that was where I really got my start. That was where I learned how to do whatever I was going to do. And that's where I met all of the people that were really instrumental in my early years as a voice
That's so
actor.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean.
And you loving like the technical part too, that must be a bit of an advantage for you as a voice talent. It's like an added benefit, an added thing you can offer clients.
Well, it certainly helps. It's not so much that I offer that to clients necessarily, because I'm kind of at the point now where I'm doing the voicing and actually getting someone else to do my editing, because
nice.
it just saves me time, and I know people who can do that in a quarter of the time it would take me, so why not pay them for it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So is it an equal love? The voiceover and, all your other interests as well, or does voiceover stand out?
Above
it all?
voiceover does kind of stand out. Not that I don't do my creative outlets elsewhere as well. I just like, I just love everything about voiceover. It's just, it's a lot of fun. And I enjoy doing what I do for my clients, and being part of the audio portion that they put out into the world is an honor and a privilege. And I love doing it, and I love understanding what I'm contributing to. So that's kind of where the podcast came from. And that's kind of led into the podcast. So, I love it all. It's just, yeah.
So now for regular Joe and Jane voice talent, how is voice branding helpful for us?
Well, for us, I would say it's more education, knowing what you're contributing to. So, I mean, as far as a voiceover brand is concerned, audio-wise, the market is going to tell you where you fit. Really.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. So your branding on your website can follow whatever the market tells you fit into. And that's a good thing for people to know right off. In a lot of situations, people would tell you, well, maybe we shouldn't pigeonhole ourselves. We shouldn't be in a box. But, my advice about that is, if they put you in a box, that's a great place to be. And at least they know where to put you.
Right. Yeah.
And then after that, you can get them to consider that you may be able to offer them something else. And it's easier for you to get in front of them that way than it would be to entice someone from the very beginning, when people think you're one way and all of a sudden you're trying to market yourself as another way. It's contradictory. It confuses people. I think that in a lot of instances, regular audio branding can inform voiceover about audio branding in general, because audio branding works best with consistent repetition, like advertising does, right?
Oh,
so if you tell people who you are consistently and repetitiously, and then suddenly decide to change that in a public way, then it's going to be confusing for people. So you're going to get people to remember you. The trick is to, if you want to get into another genre or you want to do other things, the trick is to sort of sneak in there.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah.
I know I have students that come and they're like, well, how do I know what I should pursue genre-wise? And, I'm, for a coach, I try to throw as many different scripts at them as possible, give them a chance to try things to see, because heaven knows I didn't know. I had in my mind what I thought I wanted to do when I started out. But it wasn't until auditioning, and like you're saying, the market tells you. It was dependent on what I wound up booking to go, oh, wow, I guess I'm pretty good at promo.
Yeah.
That only comes in time, with the market telling you, yay, you're good and bookable at this, and maybe you're not so good at that either. But yeah, the pigeonholing thing too, that can be tough.
Yeah. Especially if you're in a place you don't want to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know with agents too, it's easier for them to just go, okay, Linda, you do this read really well. You're a P&G voice. Great. And then it's like, yeah, but you didn't know I do character voices too. And then they look at you like, what? You do that too? But, it happens. It's interesting though.
That's why people get different demos, right?
Right.
The demo will at least tell people what you can do and what you can do well.
Showcase the other things.
Yeah, if you can pass a good character demo onto the agent that thought you were only in commercial or promo, and they like it, why not? They're there to champion you, right? That just makes them money.
Right. So true. So true. So you think that basically the talent figures out with the bookings and the market response as to what they fit for. So do you think that their branding then should then, go down that road as far as like your colors are all, the burgundies and the pinks and everything. What does that say for you? What are you portraying with that?
For me, first of all, it's kind of an unusual color in that I don't see a lot of other people using this particular color. So for me, it is a little bit of a difference. And I just liked standing out a little bit. But it is truly me. I've settled on, I wear this color a lot. It's a color I love. It's part of my daily life. It is everywhere around me. So, in that sense, I'm just putting me out to my clients so that they understand who I am. And that's really what branding is supposed to do, right?
Right.
It lets people understand who you are in a really quick moment. So, yeah, so that's what I think it's good for. I think you settle on it over time. It's one of those, like, I'm 15 years in at this point. So, I've kind of settled on my thing, but it took a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes time, right? Like for students, for people who are just starting out, I would say do everything. Do anything you want to do and see where you land, because there's nothing wrong with trying new stuff. There's nothing wrong with trying anything.
And that's the beauty of being a performer.
Exactly. You
That's
can
the
play.
whole point of doing this
Yeah.
is to be able to have fun and let go. And especially if you're very cerebral and you're in your head all the time, it's like, no, throw it away.
Yeah.
Let's just have a good time and be goofy. You mentioned improv on your website, so you're an avid fan and participant.
I am an avid fan of D&D.
Okay.
And so in that sense, I do my improv on a regular basis because I'm involved in a number of different games, and on a regular basis that requires improv.
So
However,
I'm clueless with this. Explain the D&D to me. This is role playing?
Yeah, it's role playing.
In a game.
In
Okay.
game, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a games master who's bringing you through a particular scenario, and you are collaborating with 3 or 4 other players, let's say, and you all have to accomplish a goal. And you are playing a particular character while you are accomplishing that goal, whatever it happens to
Gotcha.
be. So in that sense, you are role playing as whatever character you're in, and then you're role playing that character in whatever scenario you've been placed into.
Oh, there you go.
With other people. So it becomes a collaborative role playing experience, and you're improving through that whole thing. So
Now, are you doing this online?
I have done that, actually. I'm involved in a group called Diced Thespians that gets together on Twitch every Tuesday evening. And so that is one. But I'm involved in, 3 or 4 others that are, happening
fun.
every other week or every week or on the weekend or, And it's so much fun. And you get to be a different character every time. And they all have different motivations and, and, right?
And there's so
But-
much, such great practice for you.
It really is. It's a lot of great practice. That said, I'm not an animation video game audiobook kind of talent, so that's not really what I do. However, it does help me understand how I could get a motivation for whatever I'm doing. So I do think that improv is a great thing. I don't necessarily think that it's improv classes that make it a good thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, I'm not saying don't take improv
Right.
classes. If you want to take improv classes, and
Right.
they work really well. I'm just saying there are other scenarios in your life that could double as improv classes.
Oh, that is
D&D being
interesting.
one of them.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of promoting improv. I'm lucky enough to work for a comedy network, so every day
Sure.
is a different thing, and that's my practice,
Exactly. Yeah.
Like 10 minutes ago, I had to play a translator for, Putin. They just fired this stuff, and then I had to play a woman who was excited about a Ford car that takes off. But that kind of thing is what I try to encourage people. I'm like, if you can find any kind of avenue,
Sure.
anything, especially if it's fun, then it just helps that muscle grow.
Yeah.
And then that way you're more comfortable, because I feel like that's the biggest issue people have, is they're just like, they're self-aware. They're just like, they're self-conscious. They're like, oh, I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to sound stupid. And it's like, you can't do anything stupid. You can't
Yeah.
do anything wrong. This is just you as a performer. Let it go. Let it fly. This is fun. This is what the whole point of why we got into this business.
Yes. Yeah,
You know?
definitely. Yeah.
And that's what I encourage people to do.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the toughest part about being a voice actor?
Ooh. Often I think it's getting more jobs. I think the marketing
Looking
can
for
be the
work.
hardest part. And yeah, honestly, like I love the voicing. That's the easy part for me.
Yeah.
but not that I didn't have a bunch of coaching and still get a bunch of coaching. Not that I could, can't stand to learn more. I could definitely learn more. I'm always learning. But as far as continuing in a business and running a business as an entrepreneur, I think that the constant influx of business is definitely, that's the hard part,
challenge.
Keeping the business going.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping track of everything can be really complicated too. It depends, it depends on what
Do you
you're
have
doing.
like a favorite app or website that you use on a daily basis that helps you with your business?
Well, I use Zoho Books for my invoicing system. So I have a whole ecosystem around that. So the CRM is in there and all of that. Although, to be honest, I very rarely use the CRM. I'm like horrible that way. But I do check my invoicing system and understand where the money is, what I'm owed, who hasn't paid, how old invoices are, when was the last time I heard from this client. I can pay attention to that and understand what's happening with that
Zoho offers
all the time.
a lot.
Yeah.
Zoho offers a lot of things. I
They
think I was
do.
using their social media aspect for a while. But yeah, I know they have a CRM and I have not checked out Books, but I wasn't sure. I always like to find out what you find is the most valuable thing that helps you, makes your job easier.
Well, besides that, Gmail.
Gmail. Yeah.
I mean, the
Right.
snooze function in Gmail is a lifesaver.
I don't think I've used that.
It's really well, okay, what happens with me is that I need reminders on a constant basis. And so if I snooze an email until the day I'm going to need it and then it pops into my inbox, and my inbox is fairly clean because I've taken care of most of what's in there, then when that unsnoozed email appears in my email at 8 a.m, the day that I'm going to need it, I know exactly what I need to do. So
Okay. So when it comes in, you hit snooze and you can define the period of time.
yeah, I can say
Okay.
when I want it to come back to me. So
Okay.
I can answer, like if I'm on a podcast, for instance, or I have a podcast interview I'm doing with someone else, I exchanged an email with that person, but I'm not going to need it until March 22nd when our actual time to meet is. So I'm going to snooze it until March 22nd. And then on that date, it appears in my inbox and I know, oh, I have that interview coming up. Now I have
Fascinating.
my calendar as well. That's
Right.
but seeing that email on that day means I can go through the thread and familiarize myself again with what we talked about and all of the things I'm going to need to know when we get on our call, et cetera, et cetera. So, things like that are super
That's
helpful.
awesome. I have to check that out. Because I use Gmail as my main email provider, but I have not explored that yet. So this is
I
something new.
highly recommend it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that
very
makes
helpful.
sense. Again, it also beats having to dig through to find an email
Yes.
to reference something again.
Yeah.
Since we get so many emails. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Definitely.
I know. And my brain is like, I was just talking with someone else about this on the podcast about I use Nimble for my CRM.
Yeah.
And the overwhelming factor of it, because, when you've been in the business as long as we have, it's like you just get so many contacts and I'm really terrible at follow-up. I'm very lazy about it. So I know, I took a Mark Scott class on it and it's helping me get organized. But I'm using the workflow pipelines to try to keep me organized with, okay, contact this person, when to follow up with them. Because if you just tackle it from like staring at this huge database, half these people aren't in business anymore. Some are dead, it's like, and to go through and cull the dead leads is just, forget it. I'd rather, blow my brains out than that. So.
Yeah. That's why I'm so bad with CRMs because it's very overwhelming. But as things come in, if I keep track of them with email, then I kind of don't need to do that. So, I mean, I still could be a lot better at reaching out to my clients after the fact or leads after the fact. Definitely.
Yeah, do you do follow-ups or you do?
Very rarely.
I know, right?
I'm bad at it. I really am. And I know I could be better, but there are only so many hours in the day.
Right? I
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
feel like that too. I feel like the day just goes, and as we get older, it just goes faster and faster,
Very true. Yeah. So,
which really is not good. I remember you were a kid, and like the summer, you couldn't wait for the summer to start, and it was like time would drag. And now it's like you blink and like 2 months have passed, and you're like, what the heck happened to my last 2 months?
very true. Yeah. Things
Yeah.
go a lot faster. Only gets worse as you get older.
I know. As well as my eyesight's getting worse as I get older,
Oh,
which is
no.
terrible.
Well,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I know.
I know what that's about. I've had bad eyesight since I was 8, though. So
Me as well. Like, what are the Coke bottle glasses when I was a kid?
I
but
had a
now
patch.
it's like, you had what?
I had
You
a patch because they were trying to train my lazy left eye to work better.
Oh, no.
As an 8-year-old kid, can you imagine? Oh yeah,
Oh, that must have been rough.
That was rough. Yes.
Oh my God. I know. Growing up can be very tough, and kids
yeah.
are cruel.
Oh
Kids are very
yes.
cruel.
Talk about being the ugly duckling. Yes, definitely.
I think of all the things that I hate losing the most as I age is the eyesight aspect, because having to switch glasses, or because I wear contacts, I had tried the bifocal contacts. I don't know, something happened, my eyes got worse. So now it's like, okay, you get to choose. Either you can see traffic signs or you can see your phone. So
Yeah.
it's like you make an option. And I was like, well, I'm going to pick traffic signs because I don't want to be driving
Yeah.
and not be able to see stuff. But there's no in between.
Yeah, I'm in the same exact situation as you. I do have like bifocal contacts. I don't wear contacts all that much anymore because I just don't I'm not socializing as much as I was in person. And when I'm at home, I'd rather just wear my glasses, and my glasses have several options, and I can just lift them up if I need to see something really close.
It's
So
actually healthier for you. Healthier for you to do glasses.
I hope so.
That's what my ophthalmologist says. She's like, you got to get these contacts out. Yeah, because apparently your eye starts to change shape because you have the contacts in too much.
Yeah. I still have contacts, and I will wear them on occasion when I really need to, but I like the glasses have become another accessory in my branding, to be honest.
Oh, interesting.
Because they're burgundy, right? I don't know if you can tell, but they're right? So
So do you make sure you're wearing them in pictures and everything? Do you try and keep it all consistent, or?
I would now. But
So I'm looking at some of your pictures. I don't see your glasses on some of these pictures.
The pictures that I have are now, I think, 3 years old or something like that. So, I mean, pandemic, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to tell you how old my headshot is. I won't even tell you.
Yeah.
But yes, I
so
get it.
You understand. Yeah. So if I went and got pictures taken now, probably I would get them with my glasses. Yeah.
That's
I probably
cool.
would. Yeah.
So how did you discover that should be part of your branding?
I had to wear them, and I liked
You
how
woke up
these
one
looked.
day and said,
that was really it.
This looks good. I'm going to keep these.
Yeah.
Well, they suit you. They suit you. You
Well,
have a
thank
good
you.
face for glasses.
Thank you.
Yeah, they look good. I'm telling you that when you logged in, I was like, you have a nice aura, a nice glow around you, and it's because of all your branding colors. It's really, really impressive. Hopefully, people can watch the video on this so you can see what we're referring to. But just an interesting perspective. So, okay, we started off as a jazz blues singer, but we don't do gigs. We do 1 gig a year.
Yeah. I've done an album, but I did the album over the internet in 2015 with a friend of mine in the UK.
How? Explain that.
Well, I've known him since 1999. He's someone that I've known through the FILK scene.
Yes.
He is a fellow named Chris Conway. So if you look at chrisconway.org, he is one of those consummate musicians. He makes a living as a musician. He's been only a musician for 30 plus years.
Wow.
And he is one of those people who's a musician you love to hate because he plays everything really
he's
well.
so good.
In fact, he mixes, he masters, he does his own CD covers. It's insane how talented this guy is. And and we've known each other a really long time. We met through the Muse's Muse originally, and then I introduced him to FILK, and he's been a part of that for a while. And in 2015 was pretty much when it was possible for the two of us to make a collaboration online work well enough that it was easy for us to exchange files and get, WAV files and MP3s back and forth. And, looking at the perspective from now and understanding how easy it is to get really large files back and forth, no matter how the distance is, right? Easy now, not so easy back then.
Right.
It took a little while for that to be a thing. And
so he would send you, he would compose something, or you would compose together, or?
We did some stuff together. We composed some stuff together. He wrote songs, I wrote songs. We brought them all to each other. He did the backing tracks. I'm a vocalist. That's the only thing I do. So I can't play any other instrument, and he had to play everything. So he would put the backing tracks together, send them to me. I would send him the audio back, and then he'd mix and master the whole thing. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so the sending back and forth was really the key. That
That's
we
so
needed
cool.
to be able to send those large files back and forth easily. And it took until 2015 for that to really be, easy.
Okay, so now here's the next question. What's your FTP of choice?
Right now, I'm using WeTransfer.
Me too.
Yeah,
I love WeTransfer.
I do love it, and I have the Pro so that I can have my branding on the.
Yes.
Yeah, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Back then, I was using Dropbox actually.
Dropbox,
and I
yeah.
still have Dropbox. I just don't use it for my clients.
Yeah, I feel WeTransfer is a great, it's not that expensive if you pay for the year.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
And then everything stays nice and consistent. And then it's like, oh, you have an email, you have files from, or the fact now that you can copy a link and send it in case somebody has, a
email
business that
doesn't get to
rejects.
them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is
super
all good to
helpful.
know. So that's interesting. Wow, making an album over the internet.
Yeah.
And this is all due to the pandemic?
Oh no, this was 2015, so this was way before.
This is a long time ago.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
It was on my bucket list. It was one of those things that I really wanted to do, and I love singing. I just don't have any desire to be a gigging musician. That's never been my thing. But
really cool.
yeah, I enjoyed doing it. It was a lot of fun to do. It's musicians have a really hard life. I gotta say, it's hard to be a musician, especially now. And I talk a little about that on my podcast too, because it's really difficult for musicians not just to get an audience, because even if you have an audience, you can be poor. You cannot
Right.
make a living. Right?
Financially, how can you
So-
support yourself as a musician?
Yeah, it is super
tough.
hard. So I feel for musicians, and I talk with people who license music, who help musicians make a living. I'm about to talk with someone who's talking about the blockchain and helping musicians make a living, which I think is really going to be interesting, because it's like making a community, but it's a community that is very involved and that can actually support you, which
Wow.
I think is something musicians
Something's
need.
needed.
This is it's something that really needs to be talked about more. So yeah, I never had a desire to be a starving artist. That was never my thing. And in fact, I don't think starving artists should be a thing. I really
Right.
don't.
I know, and it does exist.
It totally does, but it shouldn't. And
So this is why you do voiceovers,
well, exactly.
to fund your your singing passion and your D&D passion.
Yes, yeah. But I can be creative in the voiceover. It's just a different kind of creativity, which I love. I like being behind the scenes. I don't mind doing that at all. So
So you don't have interest in animation or video games or anything?
none.
None.
I just
Why is
don't.
that? Just out of curiosity.
Because I want to be paid.
Good reason, because so many people want to do animation.
I totally get it. And I understand how much fun it can be. I totally get that. But I don't want to be a starving artist. Here again, we're getting back to that, right? I love what I do because I get to be creative, and my clients pay me well for what I do.
Right.
And what is it like? You can do like a 4-hour session for something like $250 for animation.
crazy.
Like it's
Yeah.
nuts. Like why?
I know. Well, people glamorize it and they think I'm going to be a cartoon character.
I mean, if
something.
you're
And
in the
it's like,
Simpsons, if you're in the Simpsons, sure, you're
but-
making buck, but like otherwise,
I know. Or
know?
video games are so tough on the voice.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
With all the reactions and the screams and the fighting and all that, it's
Totally,
like
yeah.
it's a shredder.
and
a complete
I
vocal cord
understand how people love it. I do.
Yeah.
And if it's your passion, by all means, go for it. I'm not here to
Right.
say don't. I'm just saying it's not my necessary passion. And if it's not a passion, why do something that's going to pay me $250 for 4 hours?
Exactly. I look at it like, why am I going to strain my voice?
Yeah.
And then pretty much block myself out for anything else for the rest of the day because I know what these babies can handle and what
Sure.
they cannot. I used to sing a long time ago and did theater and stuff, but I know my limitations and it's very important to me. Like I have to do something for the Comedy Network and they're like, oh, I don't scream anymore. They'll usually get a sound effect scream, but they'll say, oh, you're going to have to do something really loud. So I'm like, give it to me at 5:00 when I don't have to do something for someone else or match audio
Yeah.
to something else. Because you have to take these things into consideration.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, in my career in general, I have what I call my pain in the ass-o-meter. and if something is going to be a giant pain in the ass, I am charging top dollar for it because if they say no, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. What they call it, an FU charge. And if they're willing to pay it,
Then okay.
then okay. Yeah.
But
So as a singer, how do you take care of your voice? Do you have any special things that you do when you start to get a little...
honestly, no, just
Froggy?
warming up a little bit and, singing and just starting off the day with a little bit of a song. That's about it. Can
I tell you, I hate warming up.
Yeah.
It is so boring.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't do
And I
anything
know it's
special. I
necessary.
really don't. And in fact, there are probably times when I don't warm up and I should.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
When I was
probably
younger,
bad.
I could roll out of bed. The voice would be crystal clear. Everything
Yeah.
would be wonderful. And now it's like, it takes about 3 hours for the sinuses to drain and all the
Oh,
gross
wow.
stuff to happen. Yeah. Just to get
I'm-
everything up and running again.
Yeah,
Like an old car.
I'm lucky that sinuses are usually not a problem for me. Throat
bless you.
clearing can be a problem for me. Yeah, which yeah, I
supposed to
mean
be
everyone has
really-
something, right?
That's supposed to be really bad for the throat.
It
too, right?
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
My vocal teacher tried to teach me how to throat clear backwards.
That's interesting.
I don't know how. Yeah, it was something that she was taught because she was a singer in Nashville, and I couldn't figure it out. But apparently there is a technique, and you cough somehow backwards so that way it doesn't. I don't know. This is not my area of expertise.
Well, coughing might be better than clearing your throat, but
True, because I guess you're trying to get the phlegm out, whatever it is that's causing the coughing to happen.
usually, yeah, and probably drinking coffee with cream is not a good idea.
No. Usually it's not. So tell me about your podcast so people can visit your podcast.
Sure. It's called Audio Branding, and the subtitle is The Hidden Gem of Marketing. So I talk about what I deal with on a regular basis. So I mostly work in commercials and corporate narration. And, I do the odd documentary and in-show narration type stuff, but that's, kind of an exception to my 5 minutes of finished audio or less rule.
That's a good rule.
Yeah, that's my general rule. So there's that. And then, the podcast talks about how sound influences our buying decisions, but also our daily lives. So I do some solo podcasts that are usually between 5 and 8 minutes long. And they're kind of essays that I speak as podcasts and use different links in my show notes, which are basically a blog that links to videos and things like that demonstrate what I talk about. And
interesting.
I interview people as well. So I interview pretty much a whole wide spectrum of people who work in sound, from casting directors to creative directors to people who do content marketing to people who do branded podcasts to people who have audio equipment that they have developed to medical people who are talking about how the beeps in hospitals are killing us. There's all sorts
Wow.
of, there's a lot of interesting stuff. ASM artists, like I've talked with people who do ASMR and what that entails and why they got into it, and public speaking and all sorts of really interesting topics that are all about sound.
It really does cover, it touches a lot of different areas out there that you don't think
It really
about.
does. Yeah. I think mostly I want to talk about how important sound is in our lives. And I think part of why we don't give it the due that it deserves is because it's in our background all the time. Mm-hmm. It's behind us all the time. We hear it, we just don't pay attention to it. And often as voice actors, and I'm sure you've experienced this before, we're brought in as the icing on the cake or the
Right.
bow on the present, right? And they
The
haven't
last
given
piece.
any thought to it before putting that into their production. So there was no thought that went into the creation of that audio before we were brought in. And
Interesting.
I just think that their production could have such a better impact if they thought about the sound that they were doing before the project was almost done.
I find it helpful when we do get the rare audition that sends you a video file with the music underneath it.
Oh, yes. That is
Then
super
you're like,
helpful.
Oh, wow. Now
Yeah.
I'm going to completely read this differently than I thought by just looking at the copy.
Exactly. The sound, the music gives you emotional context.
Yeah.
So that's what sound is. If you think about it, watching a movie, if you turn off the sound, you'll understand what's happening in the movie. You'll
Right.
get the plot. You just won't care.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
the emotional, you don't have that emotional connection.
Yeah, there's nothing telling you how you should feel as you watch that, right?
Right.
The music, the sound effects, they all give you that context in order to let you immerse yourself in what you're watching. Like, I will cry in commercials. I'm awful that way. But it's the sound that does it to me, The heartfelt music on this ad about a father giving his daughter a cell phone as she goes off to college is, it's not the act of the father giving the cell phone that gets to me. It's the music and the
music.
context of
Yeah.
what's going on that screen, right?
That's
that
funny.
gets me bawling.
That totally makes sense, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that sometimes to get myself in the mood for an audition, if I know where they're going with it, I will take a piece of, off of Audio Jungle or something, and I'll pop it in underneath and read to it just to try to get more into whatever place I'm thinking that they're going.
I have a whole folder of music like that is various different types of emotional context that I
Yeah.
can use to put in front of an audition. And
Yeah.
it works wonders, especially as
Amazing.
musicians. Like it just
Right.
gets us right there.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. It's kindred spirits. I'm so happy that I got to meet you finally.
Yeah, likewise.
And chat about everything. This has been great. So they can check out your podcast. Give me the name again.
Sure, it's audio branding. And do you want a URL or?
Yeah, give me your URL.
Sure. It's audiobrandingpodcast.com.
Okay, cool. I'll put this stuff in the show notes as well. What about your website?
That would be voiceoversandvocals.com.
Oh, and that's your whole
That's
umbrella
the whole
thing there.
umbrella. Yeah.
For the singing, for the voiceover, everything.
Yep.
Very nice. Excellent. Well, thanks again for joining me. This was very informative, and I'm sure our listeners are going to get a lot out of it.
Thank you so much for
But,
having me. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. That wraps up this episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. We're basically doing 2 workouts a month, Alyssa and myself. And April will kick in a little more since I'm going out of town for a few weeks. But otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we'll all see you and hear from you, and you'll hear us really, really soon. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Real talk about the voiceover industry. Learn more about us and get coaching at voiceover.guru.